We have some breaking news. Representative Liz Cheney of the Republican Party has been removed from her leadership post. There was a closed-door vote this morning. It didn't last very long before Republicans did what we expected and went ahead and removed Cheney from her post. Now the question will be who replaces her. Now, afterward, Cheney told reporters that she did not feel betrayed by the vote and that she will keep fighting to prevent former President Trump from ever making his way back into the Oval Office. Cheney was removed after criticizing not only President Trump, but any Republican and any person, really, who's been spreading false accusations that the 2020 election was stolen. Her party has decided now to remove her. And we're going to go to Avery Harper, our political director, to talk a little bit about what this means for the Republican Party. Avery, no surprise here other than maybe the speed with which this vote went down. But what does this mean now going forward, not only for Cheney, but also for the party and for Congress in general?
Right. I mean, we've now seen, rather unsurprisingly, that Liz Cheney has been ousted from her role as the Republican conference chair in the House. And this is sending a message that, you know, if you are not with former President Donald Trump, then you are not with this Republican Party. And so what we are likely to see is a Trump loyalist be replaced, Liz Cheney be replaced with a Trump loyalist. We know that Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is one of the people being considered to take her place. She would be replacing the only woman that was in House Republican leadership. But there are concerns that she is not conservative enough to handle the role. But, seemingly what really matters is the fact that she is aligned with Trump. She has the endorsement of Trump. And so we are going to see this party continue to align itself with the former president, despite the fact that he is out of office. And I did want to share just a little bit of what Cheney said before the vote that stripped her of her title. She said, "We cannot let the former president drag us backwards and make us complicit in his efforts to unravel our democracy." She has continuously framed President Trump as a danger, not only to the Republican Party, but to democracy itself. And so, like Cheney has said, after the vote, she is going to continue to make her voice heard on the topic. She does not believe that former President Trump, should have any place in the Republican Party, let alone make his way back into the Oval Office.
And Cheney clearly does not have the support of her party based on the vote today, but she does have some supporters within the party. And after the vote, we heard from Representative Adam Kinzinger a bit on what he makes of all of this. I want to play that sound for you.
Look, I just want to say that I'm fully supportive of Liz. What happened today was sad. Liz has committed the only sin of being consistent and telling the truth. The truth is that the election was not stolen. 74 million voters were not disenfranchised. They were just outnumbered. And it's important for our party to take inventory of that and go out and win the next election instead of continuing the big lie. So, look, I stand with Liz. I'm proud of her. There's a lot of people that are proud of her for what she's done, and a lot of people that feel threatened by her, and that's their decision. But going forward, I think she's going to be a great leader for this country and this party.
Congressman, how many supporters did she have in the room?
I think there were a lot, but we ended up going by voice vote. And the ironic thing was it was to show unity. So at that point, it's not even worth the fight. You walk out and you say, all right, the leader's made his decision. That's fine, and he'll have to hold to whatever that is. There was no speeches, really. It was just Kevin standing up, and then the vote was taken. So it was definitely not what I expected, but
what did McCarthy say?
basically it's time to move on from her. He said, we have to be unified and continue with this whole unity theme. And look, I'm all for unity. I'm all for unity and truth. Truth cannot coexist with lies. Truth cannot coexist with falsehood. You cannot unify with that. And I think that's what Liz has been saying. So thank you, everybody. I'll tell you, it was a sad day.
What do you think of Elise?
Look, in terms of anybody going forward, I'll take that decision. I think anybody that was sniffing around for this job before Liz was out, obviously that's not a great thing. I think for me, I'll vote for somebody that's going to tell the truth to the voters. Because as leaders, your job isn't just to make it comfortable for the rank and file members. Your job is to tell people the truth. And by the way, to our base voters who believe the election was stolen, honestly, I don't blame them because their leaders have done the exact same thing. That's why it's important for people to tell the truth. Thanks, guys. Take care.
That was Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger coming to Elizabeth Cheney's defense here, saying truth cannot coexist with lies. You can't unify behind that. And he's now advocating that whoever replaces Cheney be someone that he says will tell the truth. He, of course, is referring to the lies that Cheney criticized. Part of the reason she was removed, criticizing lies about the 2020 election and the idea that it was stolen. I want to go to Denver Riggleman, a former congressman, Republican from Virginia. And Denver, you kind of put yourself, if I may say so, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, in this category of Republicans who support the party and the premises that Republicans stand for, but don't support former President Trump, and particularly the claims that he made about the election. So what happens to Republicans like you, like Liz Cheney, like Adam Kinzinger?
Well, it's the beginning of really a long political war between facts and lies. And I don't know if when you were listening to Adam there at the end, and again, thanks for having me on, he said something about not blaming the electorate for believing the big lie. Well, the issue is that most of the electorate believes that Stop the Steal is a deep state conspiracy theory that's true, that's against them specifically. And the leaders have been able, in the GOP, many of those leaders have been able to mobilize a significant portion of the Republican base to believe it. And that's what Adam was saying, is that it's very difficult to unify behind something that's so egregiously untrue and false. And it's very difficult to identify as a Republican in this party when it's about loyalty to one individual. And you know, a lot of people have tried to break this down politically. I've been there. I know why McCarthy called such a quick vote. And that's because he didn't want any quotes coming out in the press during that conference meeting. That is why he did it. And the reason they went voice vote was to protect the members. So that's what McCarthy did. And politically, that's what they expect if their electorate believes that the lie is true. And that's what should terrify people, is that the continuing push for disinformation is increasing, not decreasing. We saw it in Virginia yesterday when a gubernatorial candidate that ran on election integrity, which is just cover for Stop the Steal, won. We're seeing it all over Republican-based voters. And again, that's why I think what Adam said at the end is very true. But again, you know, Liz did what took, you know, incredible amount of guts. It takes intestinal fortitude to stand in front of your peers and say, you guys are absolutely wrong, and integrity has to win over lies and loyalty to one human being and this cult of personality that's completely metastasized throughout the Republican Party. So, again, I've seen it in the data. You know, Diane, I'm a chief strategist for the Network Contagion Research Institute. This is not going away. And what you just saw today was the messaging for the 2022 campaign, which is election integrity and Trump loyalty. That is it. If you have those two things, you're going to do very well in some of these Republican primaries.
Now, Avery, Cheney has been down this road before. Just a few months ago, a similar vote was held, but with a different outcome. At that time, she had the support of House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. And we heard Kinzinger say this time around there were no speeches, there was no nothing. Essentially, McCarthy got up there and said what we've heard him say publicly, which is it's time to move on from Cheney because she's not unifying the party by criticizing fellow colleagues and by criticizing President Trump. So what does that say? Why did she lose McCarthy's support, and why is this message of unity now so prevalent in the Republican Party as they face a divide?
Right. I believe that after the events of January 6th, there was a push to become unified for the sake of the country. We had gone through something traumatic to see the Capitol be attacked in the way that it was. And so Liz Cheney was extended grace. You have to remember, even Kevin McCarthy came out and blamed the president for his part in stoking what became the violence that happened on Capitol Hill. But now, months removed from that attack, Liz Cheney continues to speak about it, where other members of Republican leadership have moved on. She continues to say that the lies that the president spreads about the outcome of the 2020 election, calling that election fraudulent, that is dangerous to the Republican Party and to democracy itself. And so she is someone who is going to speak her mind. She made it clear even in the speech right before they took that vote. And so the message is clear to Cheney and other members who would dare speak out against former President Trump, that if you are not aligned with Trump and you are not a loyalist to Trump, then there might not be a place for you in this party.
And so, Denver, what do you make of this message from McCarthy? Could it benefit the party for them to present this unified front, even if it is a unified front that's essentially behind a lie?
I think in the short term, it is a pretty powerful message. If you take any moral judgments out of it or integrity, politically, it's a calculation based on polling and fundraising. So this will work in the short term going into the 2022 midterms. And I know, there's some people who say it could backfire. There could be a boomerang effect. I get all that. I understand that. But I'm here on the ground. I was just in Congress on January 3rd. I sort of have I guess my finger on the pulse of what's going on anecdotally with people in my district here in Virginia's 5th District. And the issue is is they still believe the election was stolen. That is just baked in. You don't even need President Trump anymore. They've already identified who the enemy is, and that's the deep state. It's the new emergence of the New World Order. So this unity message from Kevin McCarthy is going to be very powerful to grassroots Republicans, especially those in these committees around the country that have been pushing this. And I call them the little Stalins. It's a theory I learned at the University of Virginia, then when I deployed to Eastern Europe in the military. And they might even be worse than Trump, and that they have to perpetuate this to keep their committee leadership, but also to make sure that people rally behind them, rally behind the president and the candidates that they choose to keep their power base. So I think in the short term, it's going to work out really well. But I think in the long term, you're going to see the slow dissolution. And you're going to see people like me and Liz and Adam. We're going to start to hit the flanks of this ridiculous movement of stop the steal and election integrity and this sort of singular focus to President Trump. And I think you're going to see a little bit of chaos as the flanks start to collapse on the big lie in the next 2 to 3 years. But I think up until 2022, I do believe, based on redistricting, based on the election integrity message and the massive grassroots fundraising off of people like Liz Cheney, which is very sad, I think for 2022, the GOP is looking good. And I think McCarthy's message of unity is going to resonate with the base.
And I want to bring in our senior national correspondent, Terry Moran, on this as well, because, Terry, we also heard from Senator Mitt Romney, who's been an outspoken critic of President Trump for some time. Despite being a Republican, he endorsed Joe Biden. And he's looking at this from a strategy standpoint and saying on Twitter that Republicans aren't going to gain any voters with this move, but they may lose quite a few. What do you make of that?
Well, they'll lose some voters. There's no question Mitt Romney is right about that, but not many. We talk about a civil war in the Republican Party. What's happening today demonstrates that one side has won. And it is the side that supports President Trump at all costs, even as Liz Cheney said in her speech last night and today, at the cost of telling a lie to the American people and of attacking our democracy. Those were her words. They have decided that what Donald Trump is doing, and the vast majority of them, they can do arithmetic. They know what happened last November. They do understand that the courts and the states and all kinds of local and state officials and the Department of Justice and others affirmed the truth that Joe Biden won the election fair and square. But they are willing to remain silent and go along with it because the base is with Trump. So there is no civil war in the Republican Party. I respect Denver Riggleman and Liz Cheney and others who are trying to revive a party that has embraced this kind of illiberal nationalism, authoritarianism even. Look, they changed it to a voice vote. They made it impossible to vote your conscience in a secret ballot in that room. What does that sound like? I think what we're looking at is a Republican Party that has set off in a particular direction. What Liz Cheney and Denver and Mitt Romney and others are trying to do is raise the price, raise the cost of doing business that way to individual members, the cost to their conscience, the cost to their reputation among friends and family who don't agree with them, and the cost in history. She said many times that history brought us here. You're choosing a certain path. My response would be, it depends on who writes that history. It depends on who wins this in the long run. But she is definitely going down, embracing this martyrdom in a way that she hopes will lay down a marker for a movement that right now is a splinter movement in the Republican Party.
All right. Terry Moran, Avery Harper, Denver Riggleman, thank you all.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.